Make sure you subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button. And to never miss another lecture from Miracle, hit the bell icon to get regular updates on English literature.
Hello and welcome to Miracle English Language and Literature Institute. I'm Professor Abha Sharma, and as you all know that we are doing poetry critical appreciation. That means we are critically evaluating the poems of the greatest English poets. And I'm doing In Memory of W.B. Yeats written by W.H.AUden. I've already done the first part where I told you that the poet died in the dead of winter, and the weather also agreed that it was a very cold and chilly day when he died. He gives the contrast between the city life and the countryside. At one end, he says that the nurses were running around the hospital, and the airports were deserted, the rivers were frozen, the statues disfigured, and everything was affected by his death. But then on the other side, in the forest, the beasts were as usual howling, unconcerned, unaware of the death of Mr. Yeats. And again, he comes back to the city life where the brokers were shouting in the stock exchanges, the poor, pretty accustomed to their own life, but the instruments all agreed that it was a very cold day. Part 2. You were silly like us, your gift survived it all. The parish of rich women, physical decay, yourself. Mad Ireland hurt you into poetry. Now, the poet is trying to say that he was silly, he was human, he had all the human emotions and he expressed them. He did not keep all the emotions to himself. He was infatuated by the rich women also, and the main mention here is of Maud Gonne. Uh, so he says that beauty with time decays. He also became old and died, and all the beautiful and rich women who were with him also decayed. And whatever he did for Ireland, Ireland did not recognize his worth at all. He tried to speak his mind through his poetry and tried to reform the people of Ireland, but Ireland did not care for him at all. And there's a female personification used for Ireland, that now Ireland has her madness and her weather still. That he's dead, but nothing has changed in Ireland. Even his death has not affected the people here. For poetry makes nothing happen. Poetry is just the writing, it doesn't change people towards goodness at all. Actually, poetry creates imaginary lands full of morals and goodness, wherever in reality it is totally the opposite. So, the people do not want to disturb the imaginary, good, dreamy land of poetry with the reality. It survives in the valley of its making, where executives would never want to temper, flow on south from ranches of isolation and the busy graves, raw towns that we believe and die in. It survives a way of happening, a mouth. These are very typical lines. The poet is trying to say that whatever poet preaches is just imaginary. They are the raw towns. These are the things which we do believe and live by them, but do not practice. It is only a way of saying, speaking. Nobody tempers with this truth, but then the reality is totally different. So there is a contrast between what he wanted for his country and what his country was actually. So there was no harmony between his thought and his country. Part 3. Earth receive an honored guest, William Yeats is laid to rest. Let the Irish vessel lie, emptied of its poetry. Now he's saying, since he's dead, he will not be writing any more poetry. He is buried in the earth. So earth has received an honored guest, means the reputed poet. There's a metaphor used for his body, Irish vessel, which is now empty. There is no poetry left inside it, as the body is dead. Time that is intolerant of the brave and the innocent, and indifferent in a week to a beautiful physique. These are universal lines. Time is intolerant. That means it doesn't wait for anyone. Even if you're brave or innocent or beautiful, the dead man's body will be changed within a week. It will be decayed into a handful of dust, whether beautiful or not so beautiful. Worship language and forgives everyone by whom it lives, pardons cowardice, conceit, lays its honor at their feet. Now, when the person is dead, all his negative points, cowardice, conceit, they are all pardoned. Only his work remains. So, after death, of course, people are honored. So, when he was alive, maybe people did not agree with him. They were at their own wild tricks. So, after his death, at least he will be worshipped through his language, through his work, through his poetry. Time that with this strange excuse pardoned Kipling and his views, and will pardon Paul Caudle, pardons him for writing well. Now, the people like Rudyard Kipling and Paul Caudle are mentioned here. They are writers. Kipling belonged to the Edwardian era, and whatever they wrote is remembered. Whatever they did, yeah, whatever impression they had in the public was all forgotten by time. So he's just given these two names by saying that people are forgotten with time, but their work is there forever. In the nightmare of the dark, all the dogs of Europe bark, and the living nations wait, each sequestered in its hate. Now, it is written during the time of Second World War. He died in January, and the Second World War began on 1st September 1939. So there was a nightmare, there was a terror of this war, and the dogs of Europe means the countries like Germany and Poland. It is mentioned for Hitler and Mussolini. They were against each other, and the whole world was divided into two different groups, and they were all waiting with great inflated egos, each sequestered in his hate, means they were all absorbed in hate, satisfied in their hatred only. And this was the reason which gave birth to the Second World War. Intellectual disgrace stares from every human face, and the seas of pity lie locked and frozen in each eye. Now, because of this intellectual snobbishness, because of the lost pity and sympathy for humanity, uh, the two world wars happened. Follow poet, follow right to the bottom of the night, with your unconstraining voice, still persuade us to rejoice. Now, in the terror of the world war, if you want that you should have some peace, go and read this poet. That is Yeats. If you follow him in this darkness, you would find some peace. You would rejoice, because he has that unstopping voice which can grant you peace and happiness. With the farming of a verse, make a vineyard of the curse, sing of human unsuccess in the rapture of distress. If you are too much sad, if you are terrorized by the world war, sing it out. Sing it out. And spread the verses of this poet everywhere. Your curse will soon change into a blessing. In the desert of the heart, let the healing fountain start. in the prison of his days, teach the freemen how to breathe. These are the moralistic lines, concluding lines of this obituary or unconventional elegy. He says, the hearts which are dry can be healed by the poetry of this poet. The man should learn how to praise, should know the blessings, should know how to pay gratitude. And if he does this, his heart will be again full of love and sympathy for humanity. In these lines, Auden is trying to preach two kinds of love. He says that we should leave or ignore eros, that is the sexual or the sensuous love, but promote agape, that is the love and sympathy promoted by Christ. So we should follow the teachings of Christ and should have sympathy, love, brotherhood for one another. So in this complete elegy or obituary, we find that all the three parts are very different from each other. The first one gives the present situation when he died and the world around him. The second one tells about his country, his teachings in contrast to the beliefs of the people during his time. And the third one, he talks about the complete world, the scenario behind the world wars, and what he wants to promote through this poem. He wants to bring back peace, to bring back the same emotion of humanity in the heart of man. I hope you must have liked my effort. I have tried it, though it is a very unconventional poem, very different. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you soon with the new poem in my next video. Thank you.